unmute yourself to ask a question. I don't know if you know that trick in Zoom, but it's easier than trying to get your mouse to get over and click on the microphone. So welcome to all of you today, and I'm going to share my screen. I'll just bring it up now. So as long as, let's see here, I'll have to just bring up my PowerPoint just a sec. I thought I had it down here already, so I just had to open it, but not the case. So we'll just go here. Sorry, I thought I had this ready, and Brianna and I were so busy chatting before, so I'm just going to go to my screen to get it. It'll just take a second. Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit about mindset, but because I'm going to share a lot of information with you today, I want to make sure that you have a pen and paper ready to take some notes, because as I mentioned, I will share a lot of information with you. So let me just go back to sharing my screen, and we'll bring this up. Okay, let's go back. I've got to stop sharing, and then let's okay. Are you able to see my screen? Yeah, okay. So I'll bring it up in just a second here. And we'll go. As you can see, I have a lot on my computer. Okay. Okay, so again, welcome to all of you today. And as Brianna mentioned, I'm the Managing Director of Grow Your Biz, and that's an initiative to help women grow their businesses in Canada. And we are a global organization, have global boards across the world, and it's been very interesting during COVID, especially to see how well the women have done in their businesses. So let's start out. I'd like to ask you, do you have the right mindset to grow your business? There've been a lot of studies done on mindset, and mindset is really a simple idea that was discovered by Dr. Carol Dweck, and she's a renowned university at Stanford, actually, psychologist who did some studies and research on achievement and success. And she really discovered that it's a simple idea that really makes a huge difference. So if you have a fixed mindset, and this is a chart that she created, it's a bit fuzzy, I do apologize, but she talks about a fixed mindset. And that's where people believe that basic qualities like their intelligence or their talents are simply fixed traits. There's nothing they can really do about them. And they spend time documenting that and their talent instead of really developing them. So they also believe that talent alone creates success without effort. And they're very wrong. In a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. And I often say there's no secret to success. It's really hard work. So brains and talent are just the starting point. This view really creates a love of learning and a resilience that's essential for great accomplishment. Virtually all great people have these qualities. And if you have an opportunity to read a book by Dr. Angela Duckworth called Grit, she's done studies, and it's all about what makes people successful. And it's not necessarily education, but it's grit, that stick-to-itness, that perseverance that really makes the difference. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So I want to talk to you a little bit first about growth. So, often people complicate business. There's only 3 ways to grow a business. Sounds simple, right? First of all, number 1 is you got to find new customers. So you need to be always doing business development. No matter how busy you are, you need to devote some time every week to developing your business. You need to sell more to your existing customers. We'll talk a little bit more about that further on. How do you offer new services or maybe develop new products to sell more to those customers? And the last one is not always an option, but that's to acquire. When I had my business, over the course of years, didn't happen right away, I bought 2 small companies, one in Vancouver because I wanted to be coast to coast, and I bought a small company in Burlington, Ontario. And that really gave me stupendous growth, actually, at the end of the day, even though they were small when I first bought them. So this all sounds very simple. If you look at it, if I look at only 2 ways to grow, new customers and sell more to the ones you've got. But it's not that simple. Let's look at a sales reality check. And this is not me. This was a study that was done by Deloitte, by McKinsey, and IDS. And the study was done in the US. Most studies are, as you probably know. But 58% of companies miss their annual sales targets. We forecast sales, but most companies miss them. 61% of salespeople don't hit their annual quotas. That's almost half. 81% of sales are closed after the 5th attempt. But unfortunately, 76% of us stop after attempt number 2. So here's one thing I want you to write down for yourselves. There's a fortune in follow-up. We all have those lists of potential customers. Stay in touch. It takes 5 connections to sell, at least, to sell to them. So fortune and follow-up. And then I want you to think about, who is your ideal client? And I want you to be specific. If you're selling B2B, you have to be talking to the right man. And by the right man, I mean the money, the authority, and the need. And sometimes that's 3 people in a company. The money man is the CFO or the accountant. The one with authority is often the owner or the CEO or the head of a department. And the need might be individuals within the organization. So be specific. If you're selling B2C, so in Steph's case, no, you would be selling to some commercial too in your area of cleaning as well. You're not just doing B2C, but you need to really understand what specific problems you solve and make sure you address them, that those clients are facing those challenges. So look at gender, look at age, look at their interests and hobbies, occupation, location, their average income, and their level of education. So I want to just share with you a story about how I really learned a good lesson about finding the ideal client. So as Brianna mentioned, I owned Dualcomm Canada for 32 years altogether. And we were an audio-visual company. I started out selling, I don't know, most of you may be too young, but I think you may remember overhead projectors that we had in school. That they put acetates on top. Okay, good. I see some heads nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. So that's how I started the business, selling overhead projectors. And then I always got involved in my industry, and I went to a manufacturer's rollout, and here they had a flat panel that sat on top of an overhead, and you could project directly from your computer. And I thought, wow, this is going to revolutionize our business. So I embraced that technology, and the next thing you know, they developed data projectors with its own built-in light source. I didn't need overheads anymore. So here I was, starting to sell that, and then flat screens came on the scene. And we all know flat screens. Probably most of you watch your television on a flat screen. So we had people, even though I was always B2B, business to business, I had a few individuals, people I knew, and they said, Mark, can we buy one of those from you and you install it for us and we can have it in a home theater? Well, let's be honest, it's not the wives that want home theater. It's the boys who buy toys, right? They want the home theaters with the big screens and the big audio. So we started doing a bit of that. And, we were doing it really in a very small way. And we were, doing about $5,000 to $6,000 at that time to install a system. But it takes a long time to really grow doing that. So I started thinking, who would be my ideal client for this particular area of the business? And I thought, I need to market to boys who buy toys. So in Montreal, I had a 40,000 square foot facility. So we took 10,000 square feet, and the technicians, we invested, it was a big investment, but we built 6 incredible home theater rooms with incredible speakers. And I don't know if you know much about the artisans in Quebec, but the furnishings they build are to die for. In fact, I wanted to take some of the stuff home. And so I called the Maserati Club and the Ferrari Club of Montreal, because these are boys who buy toys. And I said, if you would come, I have parking for 150 in my parking lot. If you'd like to hold your monthly meeting in my lot, I will have a wine tasting for you. And all I ask is that you tour my home theater rooms and give me feedback. There'll be no selling, but I want your feedback. So they came, they drank wine, they toured the rooms, they gave us feedback. And 2 weeks later, one of the boys called and worked with our salespeople in that division and gave us an order for $600,000 to automate his second home in Mont Tremblant. So I just want to share that story with you, because when you target and market to your ideal client, wonderful things start to happen. So I want you to spend some time, at some point between now and Monday, take some time with a pen and paper and really think about, who is my ideal client and how do I reach them? Like, where do they hang out? In my case, when I had started my business, I needed to be among business people, decision makers. And a lot of deals are done on golf courses, as a lot of us know. Well, I don't golf, and I'm pretty competitive. So in order to be good enough, I don't have the time to spend practicing. So I bought a social membership. And I just went to all the social events at the club. I think at the time it cost me like $500 a year for a social membership, and you had to spend a few bucks during the year. But I got to meet all those people I wanted to meet. And I was having a lovely dinner at the same time. So think about, where are they? So once you know who your client is, then you have to understand these things. Why do people buy? There are 5 reasons that people will get out their checkbooks, get out their credit cards, or give you a purchase order. And let me share those with you. So number 1 is, you're going to make them money. You're going to help them earn money by buying your products or services. You're going to save them money. You're going to save them time, a very precious commodity for them. You're going to make it easy for them. And this is one thing I'd really like you to look at. Look at your sales process. How easy is it for people to buy from you? Don't make it difficult. Make it as easy as possible for them to deal with you. And help them live their dreams. Now, how do you know what their dreams are? Well, you need to develop some, what I call killer questions. So you need to develop questions that uncover their pain points or the problems they're facing, so you can solve them. Okay. Any questions at that point? Remember, just put them in the chat for now, okay? Also, Next, what I want to do is share with you. So we've talked a little bit about growth, but I want to talk about growth strategies. And there are 4 that I want to elaborate on a little bit for you today. So number 1 is product development. The next is market penetration. So, once we really understand the market, then we know how we're going to penetrate it. And then I want to share with you some opportunities for strategic partnerships and collaboration, and then market development. So let's take them one at a time. Product development, the best advice I can give you is listening to your customers. That's how I grew my business. They would ask me for things, can you do this? I remember once, years ago, if you remember, Nortel was a big company in Canada. They're gone now, but they were a very good client of mine at the time. And they said to me, Marg, can you make, this is when we were selling the overheads, can you make our acetates, our transparencies for us? All our admin staff, they spend all their time preparing for meetings. And I said, sure, I can do that. And then I get back out in my car and I think, oh my God, how am I going to do that? So at the time I was on the board at Humber College. So I drove up to the college and I said, I need a graphic artist. Do you have any that need a co-op program? And so I hired a graphic artist from Humber College. And that was the beginning of my production, my service bureau that I started. And that student that I hired at Humber actually joined me after she graduated. She worked for me for 23 years and became my director of marketing. So don't underestimate the value of some of these students that will work for next to nothing for you initially to get experience. So developing a new or current product in order to meet your customers' expectations is really important. And remember, if customers love your products or services, they'll stay with you and they'll tell their friends, which is what you want because it creates a viral loop. So you continue to win new customers through a positive word of mouth, through referrals. And that's very important also in social media. So, and the approach is imperative, when you're improving your existing products. So I want you to think about Apple. Apple come out with a new iPhone every year and people line up to buy them because they're more powerful, they've got more features, they've made them better in some way. And then Apple, also very smart, one of the best companies in the world. They're really operated very well. They've developed new products such as the HomePod. So they're thinking about, and this is where I was saying to you, sell more to your existing customers. They develop new products that sell in the same market. So that's a bit of an idea for product development. And then think about strategic partnerships and collaborations. Who could you work with? Somebody that, there are businesses who compete with you and businesses that target the same market, but they solve different problems for customers. You can grow your market share by collaboration or complementary businesses. I used to meet once a month with a woman who owned a office furniture company and a gentleman who worked in commercial real estate. And we'd meet once a month for coffee and share leads. So we collaborated with each other. Anyone who was moving, he knew about. And anyone who was moving needed office furniture, and they needed either new AV, audiovisual products, or they needed, moving their existing products to the new building. So we complemented each other. So think about, it needs to be a win-win for both parties, or in our case, all parties. So think of American Express and Visa who sell foreign exchange. They liaise with luggage companies. So anyone booking a trip through them gets a deal on luggage from Samsonite. So special offers for customers referred through a channel, or you can offer a referral fee as well to get more business if it's suitable to your line. Next is looking at market penetration, and you do that with a unique offer. So price differentiation, you can lower your prices to grab competitors' clients, or you can increase your prices to capture a new segment of the market. I really don't recommend lowering your prices to increase your business. And I'll tell you why. When you start selling things less expensively, people start to categorize you as being inexpensive. I don't want to use the word cheap, but that's, they tell their friends. So when they all come expecting a deal, okay? So be careful with your pricing. We could probably spend a whole session on pricing and what to charge. But think about IKEA. IKEA penetrated the furniture market with incredibly low prices. They eliminated assembly, they eliminated storage, they consolidated warehousing, and they utilized low-cost materials. They really differentiated themselves in the marketplace. So that's what you need to do. Look at how you can differentiate yourself. So, and I want to also share with you, you all know the brick furniture stores. The brick started in out west, I think it was Alberta. And when they first came to Ontario, no one had heard about the brick. So what they did was, they had those big yellow trucks with the red brick on them. They put their trucks out on the 401 and they drove back and forth, mainly across the top of Toronto. Empty, like they weren't doing anything. They were just promoting the brick. Typically when furniture stores begin, they put flyers in the weekend paper, you get stacks of them. The brick did something different. So when they were ready to open stores, that's when they did the flyers in the local newspapers. And people think, oh, the brick, I know the brick. I see their trucks everywhere. They must be selling tons of stuff. I better check them out. Meanwhile, those trucks were empty, but they were promoting their brand. So now I'm not suggesting you get up and drive back and forth across the 401, but it's very inexpensive these days to get a big rig wrapped in your brand. It's amazing. One of our Grow Your Biz members actually does that. She's based out of Whitby, and she wraps big rigs for people to promote their businesses. So I just want you to think about that. There's, many ways to promote your business. So I promised Brianna that I would share with you the elements of a successful business. And I called, one day this will be my book. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, The Joy of Six. And there are 6 elements to running a successful business. So I want to share those with you today. So number 1 is having a compelling business model. And, who is your target customer? We've talked a little bit about that. What is the product or service you're selling? And how is the company planning to deliver the product or service to maximize your margins? Very, very important. And let me just back that up. A compelling business model is made up of 9 segments. And I don't want to get into all that today because we don't have enough time. But if any of you would like the template, I'm going to actually just can I write in the chat? I don't think I can right now, but I will. I'll put my email in the chat. Or maybe Brianna, could you put my email in the chat for everyone? And so you can email me and I'll send you the template because it's a great exercise to go through. So that's number 1, compelling business model. Number 2 is having a strong management team. And sometimes I know you're a team of 1 and sometimes you're not, but kudos to all of you today that you've taken time to develop your leadership skills. And that's something business owners should do all the time. Make sure you're continually developing your leadership skills. No matter how good we are, we can always get better. Now, every team, every company needs people with these skill sets. We need someone to do sales and marketing. We need someone to do finance. So finance is probably hidden based on where we're all sitting. You can move us all up to the top of your screen if it's in the way. Someone needs to do finance. Someone needs to do administration. Someone's got to do all that filing and fun stuff. And even if you're only buying office supplies, someone needs to do the procurement and buying, and someone needs to do production. Even if you're just doing training, someone's got to produce the training materials, prepare the slides you need. So you need all these skill sets to run a business. But I don't want them all to be you. Just because you can do invoicing in QuickBooks doesn't mean you should. It's critical that you actually stop doing the $20 an hour work and start doing the $200 an hour work. Because otherwise you're so overwhelmed with everything you have to do, you can't grow your business. So maybe write this down. Not $20 an hour, $200 an hour. That's a minimum that I'm worth, okay? Number 3 is knowing your numbers. And I'm going to be very honest with you and share with you. When I started my business, I had a sales background, and which is very important because nothing happens in any business till someone sells something, right? But I did not really understand the financial statements my accountant used to bring to me. And I get them and I kind of flip through them and I'd get to the profit and loss statement, look at the bottom line. Yes, we made some money. But I didn't know how to analyze them. I really didn't understand. So I finally admitted to my accountant that, I said, Winston, I really don't understand these. And I really don't understand this financial statement. If I buy you lunch once a month, will you teach me? And he did. For actually, we planned on 6 months, but it became over a year because I think he enjoyed having a lunch once a month out and it gave him a break. But I learned so much from him, and it made me more analytical, more strategic with my business. My forecasting, my budget forecasting became the best tool I had for growing my business. Because once I understood my cash flow forecasting, I knew, okay, I'm going to have more money here. This is the time I can do this, do more marketing, hire more. It made me a smarter business manager. So keep that in mind. So finance and having a strong financial management is very, very important. So let me ask you, have you prepared a budget? It should be done before your year starts. Do you know your financial position? Do you understand your financial statements? And don't be afraid to admit it if you don't. Do you know your receivables and your payables? Are your assets safe? And by assets now, I don't just mean hard assets, but your cybersecurity, your database. These are soft assets, but they're very important to businesses. So, and I'll just share, I learned a very hard lesson early on in the business. I can't remember what sort of revenue we had at the time, but anyway, I had a break-in one night at one of my warehouses. And, it's pretty upsetting. The alarm company call you at 2 a.m, say, we've got motion, something's happening in unit 5, okay? So, you get dressed and get in your car. I got stopped by the police for going so fast to get there, but anyway. So at the end of a long day, we figured we'd lost about $300,000 worth of inventory. Yeah, that hurts. And so, when the dust settled the next day, I called my insurance agent and I said, I hate to tell you this, but we had a break-in and we estimate we've lost about $300,000 worth of inventory. And there's silence on the phone. And hello, are you still there? And he says, Marg, I hate to tell you this, using my term, but you only have $75,000 worth of insurance on your inventory. I had been so busy growing the business, I hadn't met with my insurance agent every year to make sure we had enough coverage. So I lost $225,000. If I hadn't been doing well, that could have put me under. So I'm encouraging all of you, whether you need it or not, really look carefully at your assets and meet with your insurance, especially if you have errors and omission insurance based on what you do. You need to make sure you're really monitoring that on an annual basis, like calendar it so you get it done. Last but not least in finance, you need to make sure you're up to date with your governance. HST is paid. I often recommend to a lot of new businesses that are starting out, when you collect your payments, you put your money in your bank account and you have a separate account for HST. Because especially if you're only paying once a year or even once a quarter, it can really add up. And if you've been just putting it in the pool, it's so easy to spend it as those invoices come in. So definitely separate it if you need that discipline. So that's number 3. Number 4 is marketing. And we all do different marketing, different platforms, social media campaigns, maybe you do some print, email campaigns, but they need to be effective. And so you need to ask yourself every time you're doing a campaign, does the marketing generate leads? Does it fill your sales funnel? You might get a lead, but they may not be ready to buy yet. So you make sure they go in your sales funnel and you keep following up. Does it differentiate you from your competition? And does it promote your brand? When I started selling the data projectors, the best marketing tool cost me 65 cents. I bought domed labels to go on the projectors with my 800 number. And people started phoning me and saying, I need a dual com, meaning they need a projector. I didn't manufacture anything. I bought and resold from NEC, Epson, Sony, Sharp, that they associated the brand. But I used it as a selling tool. I said, if you have a problem, there's my number. You don't even have to look me up. So what can you do to really promote your brand? And I made sure every piece of equipment that went out of our warehouses had those stickers on them. So every campaign, ask yourself those questions. Number 5 is using robust technology. And you'll notice I didn't say the latest or greatest. We don't need to have the latest and greatest as long as it does the job we need it to do. But what do you really need in technology? Well, first of all, you need hardware. You need software, and depending on your type of business, it really depends on what you need. You need tools. And again, depending on your business, you need the tools. Like in Steph's case, I'm assuming you got to have vacuum cleaners, you got to have mops, lots of rags and, all the tools you need to do the work. Maybe you need some apps on your phone. You need resources. But the most important thing today for all of us is connectivity. We need to be connected regardless of where we are. I mean, fortunately, smartphones have gotten much better, and I'm happy to, that they are improving the network in Eastern Ontario. So we're going to have much better coverage very soon. So that's 5. And then number 6 is global marketplace. And I don't want you to panic. I had one I said to her, you need to be going global. And she says, oh my God, Mark, I only want to sell in Southwestern Ontario. I don't want to be selling to the world. And I said, let me ask you a question. Do you have a website? She says, well, yeah, everybody has a website. You need one. I said, you do know what www stands for, right? You're sending messages out to the world anyway, so why not take advantage of it? So keep in mind, there are many, many opportunities for you today. I have a cousin, he's an authored chess champion. He happens to live in the Greek islands, not a bad place to live. And he teaches people chess all over the world using Skype. And he's been doing that for years. So, not a bad life if you can get it. So when you think about global growth, I want you to think about some other things here. Think about vertical markets. And I don't know, do you know what I mean by vertical market? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. All right. So a vertical market is, for example, I had a law firm call me and they wanted to install a video conferencing system. So we did, because they wanted to have meetings between their Toronto and Montreal office, and they didn't want to be flying their lawyers all over doing discovery. So I thought, great, if one law firm needs it, They all need it. So think about your customers. You know, we had different vertical markets. We had a vertical market in business, education, and government. So again, very, very important that you think about what vertical markets can you explore. Look at the types of customers you currently have and look at their competitors. If they need you, their competitors need you too. Look at new geographies. Okay, maybe you don't want to go global, but maybe you expand into areas in Kingston or maybe out to Ottawa or even Quebec. There are many, many opportunities for you to go into new geographies, maybe into Southwestern Ontario. Look at new complementary products and services. And also look at your customer segments, the types of customers you're dealing with. And you know, and I want you to keep in mind that business keeps evolving. There are actually 5 levels of business evolution. You know, when you start out, you're a stranger to all of your customers, right? An absolute stranger. You're kind of a level 1, you've got a culture of experimenting, and nobody knows you yet. But the minute they start to buy from you, you become a supplier. But it's often based on price and it's just transactional. So you become a level of a culture of doing, performing, and you're starting in the growth area. Then think of yourself as you move up. As you get profitable, you're starting to be a culture of competence. You start to be systematic. And that's one thing I want to encourage all of you to document your processes as you go. Have them documented. So first of all, when you hire people to work with you, now it's documented, it's easy to train them, but also you can keep improving that way. So then you move to desired supplier. But I really want all of you to work towards becoming a trusted advisor. This is the way that we're in a profitable and growth phase. So it becomes a culture of engagement. The relationship we have with that customer is critical, and the relationship they have with us. They trust us. If they have questions about our industry, they automatically think of us. But then the ultimate is to become not just a profitable growth, but an innovative business as well. Culture of innovation. You know, when I had my business, I did a lot of work with the Department of National Defense. They were one of my best clients. And we had sold them a lot of projectors to train the troops in Afghanistan. And I got a call one day and I said, Marg, these projectors, they're just not working. You know, we're taking them over there, but it's so dusty and sandy there that the fans are sucking in the dust and dirt and they're all breaking down. We're having an awful time. What can you do to help us? So I went to my engineers and I said, guys, here's the problem. We need to fix it. So for those of you who know anything about rock bands, and I staged events, but not rock concerts, okay? But we had the big cases on wheels, you know what I'm talking about, that they really gear, the roadies wheel gear around in. So we took one of those, a big one. It was like 48 inches by about, I guess, 4 feet high and a foot deep, maybe a little more, 18 inches deep. And it had a hinged top on it. And we put inside that a flat screen. And we put a touch surface on top of it. So their finger became their mouse on this big computer screen. So we had it on hydraulics. So when they opened it up, pushed the button, the screen came up, out. You know, they could wheel it on a plane, take it anywhere, lock the wheels, open it up, push the button. Screen comes up. As long as they had a generator that they can hook in the computers and this unit, they can teach, okay? But I wanted to go one step better, and this is what I want you to think about. Don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. So I went back to my manufacturer for those road cases, and I said to him, like we usually got them in blue or black. Blue is our corporate color, so most of them were blue. But I asked him, I said, can you make me those in camouflage? Can you cover them in camouflage vinyl? So when I went to Ottawa to DND and we wheeled in this big case covered in camouflage, they'd already bought it before I even opened it and tested it and showed them how to work. So they bought, I think it was 20 of them right off the bat at 40 grand a pop. So again, you want to become a strategic ally, because when they had a problem with what I had sold them, actually, they called me to solve their problems. So this is the kind of relationship you want to have with your clients. You become, at least at minimum, a trusted advisor. Okay. So last but certainly not least, every successful entrepreneur needs these 4 things. You need enthusiasm. We talked about the mindset and grit. You need perseverance. And I want to back up. If you're not excited about what you do, it's time to change. Like, there has to be some enthusiasm around it. You also need to be innovative. You know, if I kept selling overhead projectors, I would have been out of business in 5 years. You know, it's really important to be involved in your industry and keep innovating what you offer clients. And you need to be a problem solver, not for your own business necessarily, but definitely for your clients. Okay, so we'll go to questions, and I'm going to say thank you here because I want to stop sharing my screen. So I don't know if we have any questions, or did I give you so much information that I've totally mind-boggled you? So Paula, any comments?
It's very informative, and I just wanted to add, with all the workshops and everything that I'm doing, what you said about I've been 4 years in business, and I've been forced to innovate greatly because of COVID. What was working before, it's not anymore.
Right.
So I'm in the process of revamping and feeling quite great about it. So who is your ideal client? What you said it before. Yes, you cannot sell a $10 thing for someone that buys something from China at $1 at a price $1. You know, you're just wasting your time and energy with the wrong audience.
Mm-hmm.
And all about the insurance and cybersecurity, I just had a coach actually going through it, and with my accountant, it's pretty much to say thank you. It's pretty spot on, and the steps that you gave this workshop as you grow, it's something when I get the templates and everything, sure enough, it's good to have as a reference. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So my email is in the chat. So if you email me, I'll send you the template. Okay. Steph, any comments?
Yeah, this was like, I feel so full, like my heart right now, because it was just perfect timing. It came across the event yesterday and I was like, oh yeah, I've got like a window tomorrow, I can do this. And I'm so inspired by your story, and yeah, just like everything I needed to hear today. So thank you for that.
You're very
So there was a couple things. So one question that I have for you is, like, while you were in it, what was your mindset when you were in it? Like, did you know you were successful? Were you able to kind of see how far you had come? Or like, yeah, what was your mindset when you were kind of deep in it?
Well, I always knew I'd be successful, Steph, but I wasn't quite sure how at the time. So I was continually learning. That's why I say it's so important to keep developing your leadership skill. And I know for me, you know, the secret is hard work to be successful. The first 12 years I had my business, I probably worked 60 to 90 hours a week. You know, my kids were now I actually stayed home for 9 years with my boys. So I was very fortunate, but then I went to work for a multinational corporation, and I did that for about 5 years. And then I decided, look, if I'm going to work this hard, it's going to be for me. And so I ended up, you know, starting my own business. I bought a 3M dealership. That's how I started. And a woman trying to get money in 1980 was unbelievable. My husband had to co-sign for me. And actually he had to have separate legal counsel because I mortgaged the house and he owned half of the house. So when we went to meet with the lawyers, they asked him, believe it or not, were you coerced in any way? And he said, yes, he was. And he loved every minute of it. And I thought, I'm going to kill him when I get him in the car. But anyway, I got the money. But that was challenging. But it was also, you know, taking some risks, but they were calculated risks as you grow. So the first 12 years I grew from 2.5, well, I started at 0 up to 2.5 million. And then I started studying about how to manage the money better. I built my own advisory board. And in the next 8 years, I took it from 2.5 to 52 million. So by working smarter, not harder, and being more strategic and more analytical. So